Hello there, it's Jay here from Jay's Vintage Junk, and today I thought we'd see if we could do anything with this GrundigTK20 that I picked up at the car boot sale. Now, I'm not going to say this is going to be a restoration or anything, because it's not. This thing it's a little bit cosmetically challenged. I'd just like to see if I can get it to play. If I can get it to play, we can better evaluate what to actually do with the thing. To be honest, to me, I paid £10 for it, and it's worth more in parts than it is as a machine. But I don't like breaking up a machine that, you know, is restorable or someone could actually use. So what I thought I'd do is we'll do a bit of a resurrection on this thing, see if we can just do the minimum amount of work we need to actually see if we can get the thing to play. See if we can play a tape on it, and then it'll give me a better idea whether I'm going to actually perhaps pass this on to someone who's going to restore it properly, Steve, someone like that, or just break it up for spare parts. So we might as well crack right in with it. Like, if you remember from my car boots pickup video, I was told this was in full working order, and it's not. It's completely dead. Even got some moth damage by the look of it in the lid there, because this is a felt, and we've got some big chunks out of it there. I believe that's been attacked by a moth at some point. We'll stick that out of the way. Now, one thing with these players are horrible to work on. Essentially, it's actually a few years since I've worked on one of these. I have worked on a few, you know, over the years. If I remember correctly, they're a mare. You basically have to take this deck out here just to access basically all the electronics inside, and there is no, you know, disconnects or everything. Everything is connected by wires. You have to unsolder a lot of things just to get to certain parts. That's what makes these aren't service-friendly machines, really. But like I said, we'll see what we can perhaps do with it. First things first is we're going to have to get this deck off. So we've got 4 screws here which I think we need to take out. Unfortunately, like I said, well, we have this plastic over here which is actually obscuring 2 of the screws. So our first port of call is going to be to get these knobs off. If I remember, they do just pull off. Yes, they do. That's one, and this is a double knot. Oh, hang on, this has got a set screw in it. Let me just find a suitable screwdriver to whiz that out. That should do. We do actually have a screw holding that one. There we go, that's released. This should just pull off. There we go, even that's coming loose. All the glues basically that hold these brights on is failing. I mean, it's no problem, you can glue them back, but unfortunately it's actually missing on that one, because I think that would have the play, fast forward, rewind, record, and all the functions actually printed on a brass label around there. That's unfortunately gone. We can now lift that off. That's probably actually worth keeping, because these tend to go missing, and basically it's got all the English translation of what all the various things do on here. Right, let's get that out of the way, and we should be able to lift the deck off on here now. Where's that screwdriver I had? There it is. That's one. 2. 3, and last one's over here, and that's 4 there. Right, okay, so we can lift the top plate off now, and that gives us our first glimpse of the actual mechanism in here. First thing we want to have a quick look at is just see the condition of these belts, and actually they're all there, and they're all reasonable. Okie dokie. Let me get you perhaps just lifted up a touch so you can perhaps see this a little bit better. Right. Like I said, this is first thing we need to check actually is that fuse there, and see if that fuse is intact, because if that's blown, That'll just basically make the whole machine dead. So I think that's our first port of call. Let's just see if that fuse is intact. Let's pull that out. Let's get the tester and let's just quickly test that fuse. Okay. Right, so that's first thing, fuse has gone. Now the thing is, what has caused the fuse to blow? Because fuses, generally speaking, don't blow of their own accord. Something causes them to blow. Let's we can get the fuse out of there in one piece. Actually, in this case, can we see if we can look at all these green deposits here? It could literally be that. In fact, I wonder if the actual fuse is intact and it's just all this that's causing a bad contact. Let's just try testing that again. No, I don't think we have got continuity, but there's a load of green deposit around the fuse there, which will be which will be causing issues. If we look there, you see. I wonder if this thing's been damp at some point. Let me have a look in there. See, the actual fuse wire inside it doesn't look terrible. Let's try it again. Now I've actually got it out of the fuse holder so we can get a good connection to it. No, it is dead. It is dead. But as I said, the fuse wire inside actually looks intact, so I'm wondering whether damp's got into it and that's what's caused that fuse to fail, rather than an actual fault with the machine. Like I said, I'm wondering if perhaps this was stored, you know, in a shed or something like that for many years, and actually damp is what's caused this, because I can see signs of mank all over the machine really. So I'll tell you what I'll do, I will just quickly go and see if I can find what have we got, a 400 milliamp fuse, and we will perhaps just try changing the fuse and see if that brings any life back to this machine. So back in the sec. Right, we're in luck. Got my random box of fuses out and we have a 400 milliamp replacement fuse there. So let us try just replacing that. I mean, it could blow straight away when we apply power to this thing, but that might actually bring this machine back to life. We'll set that about there. And I've actually took the lead underneath for safety, but we'll get the lead back out. And get the safe block in, the quick connect. There we go, that's plugged in. We'll apply power back to this thing and we will see whether, I mean, like I said, it could just blow that fuse immediately. We have used the same rate. You should never go up on the rating of fuse. You should always use the same rating that the manufacturer stipulated. So I have put a 400 milliamp fuse in there. Okay, so we've got the quick connect connected there. So when I energise that, I've already got it switched on the actual machine. All we're really going to want to see at the moment is, does that magic eye there illuminate, and do we start getting a hum from the speaker? If we do, we'll put the top back on it and we'll see how actually we can get it to play a tape. That'll give Oh, that's actually part of the mechanism. I thought that then was a piece of cobweb or something, but it's a very, very tiny Bowden cable going between there and the unit over there. Again, something that would be very, very easy to break. Right, let's power this thing up and see what it does. There may be a flash and a bang at this point. Or the machine may actually fire up. Right. Magic Eye's fired up there, if you can see. And she's running. I'm going to just disconnect the power. And we will put roughly put the machine back together enough so we can actually lace the tape up and see if it's going to play. Let's find my screwdriver. Bear in mind, like I said, we've not changed any components in this. All we have done is change that one fuse. But the Magic Eye was nice and bright, which is encouraging. Generally used on tape recorders, but there are various radios that actually use those for the tuning indicator. Also, they're really fun things if you're going to build like a little homebrew, you know, a homebrew stereo amp or something like that. Adding a couple of them can be like a really cool thing, because you've got like these little visual indicators like a VU meter. I actually built an amp for someone many years ago, a little stereo, it was 5 watts per channel, little stereo amp that I made for someone. And I actually included 2 of those EM84s for the, just one per channel for, like I said, a little bit of visual indication. Right, we'll stick the controls back on so we can actually operate the machine. Okay, that one's on. That's not good as well either. Don't know if you can make that out. Let me see if I can zoom you into this control. That's something that's an issue. This control is actually made of like a pot metal, and it's breaking up. If you look here, all the pot metal that the actual controller is made of is starting to fracture and crack and fail. I believe it's Mazak, which is like a lead tin alloy that they used to make things like this out of. And what was it called now? Monkey metal, I think, was another name for it. And it was a really, really cheap casting alloy, and it wasn't very good. It used to fail like this. And supposedly, I was told a story about one of the reasons why this stuff was so bad is back in the factory. Where they used to make the stuff, the old chaps there stirring the Mazak before it was poured in the mould. They used to knock the pipes out into the mix, just to get, you know, when the pipe was finished, they'd knock it out into the mix, which obviously contaminates the metal. And I don't know if that's just urban legend or what, but most things that are made out of this Mazak eventually start cracking and failing like this. So that's not in good. In fact, that's quite a bad one. As you can see, it's all split along there. It's cracked up there. It will work for the moment for us testing anyway. It will still at least go on the machine. Right, we need the volume control to go back on. And that's so we can hear it, so we can see. Even though the mechanism ran, the Magic Eye lit up then, I did hear a hum from the speaker, and I was expect to hear at least a small hum from the speaker. Right, let me get you zoomed back out again so you can see a bit better. Right, we'll energise it again. Switch back on. I think we're in stop mode there. I'm still not hearing anything at all coming out of the actual speaker yet, so we don't know if the amplifier section's working, but the motor section actually seems to be working okay on this. And the Magic Eye up there, let me just tip it up so you can see, if you look there, is illuminating. Right, what I will do, like we did in the previous video, I'll dig some tapes out. We'll try threading a tape and see if we actually get any signs of life out of this thing. In fact, it has just started. I can just about hear a very slight hum from the speaker. I don't know if you can make that out on the camera, but I can definitely hear a small hum from the speaker. Let's thread this up. Right, okay, and let's see whether we can... Is it going to play? Obviously we have to get off the leader tape now onto some... Here we go. No, we don't seem to get any signs of life from the amplifier at all, actually. The mechanism's obviously working because it is taking the tape up. Let's try and spin it on. Obviously the mechanism's not in great condition by how you can hear. And we don't seem to have any actual signs of life from the amplifier though. To be fair, the mechanism itself seems to be running reasonably well. But I'm pretty sure these tapes should have at least something on them. One thing that Steve did say is watch, apparently there's a relay inside here, and if it sticks it can actually erase your tapes, so that's something to bear in mind with playing with these machines. That's why these tapes are just nothing important. I wouldn't stick any of my pre-recorded tapes or anything on them here. These are just test tapes. But no, like I said, we don't seem to have any signs of life really, unfortunately. Let's get that tape rewind, and we'll have to take the machine a little bit further apart and see perhaps if we can coax some life out of it. Yeah, it's definitely not 100% happy. I think we'll have to help it. Obviously this is bad belts, this is just tired belts that are causing this. Yeah, I'll have to help it along its way. There we go. Get that off there. Oh, and my tape's broken, never mind. Well, when I say it's broken, these are old tapes, and all that's happened is the leader tapes just come off there. That can be stuck back with some tape. That's not a big problem. We've just got the leader come off there, so that can be just reattached. I'll just take it off so I don't want to damage the leader, because I can reattach that shortly. But no, this machine's definitely not too happy. Right, we'll get that switch back off. We'll disconnect the safe block so we know we're safe. In fact, I'll unplug the wires and we'll crack back inside this, and we'll have to obviously go a little bit further. Take the screws back out. Release the knobs again. Take the plate off. And we'll have to, like I said, we'll have to delve deeper inside this machine. Is that reasonably secure? Because I don't want to damage the Magic Eye up there while I'm taking this thing apart. And it seems we have a fixing over there, a fixing there, and a fixing there. So let's see if I can sneak them out with my long nose. Oh, yeah, that's nice and loose. Otherwise I'd have to go and get my little socket set. Okie, that's one out there. This machine probably will end up being, like I said, broken for parts and be far more useful to me as a source of handy parts than it is as a tape recorder. Because I do have, you know, nice reel-to-reel tape recorders. I've got a Pioneer, which is my main one. I also have a rather nice little Akai that used to belong to the BBC. So I'm good for actual tape recorders to play tapes on. Like I said, if it can be saved easily, I probably will. Or if I find it's got an easy fault, and it can be passed on to someone that might have a more of a use for it, then I will probably do that. But if not, like I said, it will probably get broken for the very useful parts inside it. Right, let's see if we can get the deck out and then we can actually get to the electronics inside. I think that should release the deck. It is, like I said, a number of years since I last worked on one of these, and they are not a favourite of mine. What's coming out that side? What's happened, you see, is the rubber has actually seized in on the mechanism, because these rubbers are quite hard. Let me see if I can get my fingers in there and pull. Oh no. Those are going to be tricky. The problem, yeah, these are going to be a little bit tricky. So that one there is lifting up and it's moving on its mount. This side isn't. That one's seized and that one's seized. I'll try getting hold of that and trying to use that as a lever. The problem is, if you're not careful, you're going to... that's come free now. I've got one at the front there. That's free. There we go. Now let's try and pull the mechanism out. And these are heavy. Have we missed a fixing there? Oh, we missed a fixing, haven't we? That's why it's been so tricky. We've got another one down here, there. We'll get that one out. We'll see if we can get back. We can get into the mechanism again. In fact, have we got another fuse there? Let's just quickly check that fuse as well, because that could be for the HT, and that one's okay. Let's just check on the holder itself. Yeah, that's fine. Sometimes you're always as well to check on the holder as well as the actual fuse itself, because you could have a bad contact between fuse and holder, and the fuse is absolutely fine. And if you just checked across the fuse, you'd think, oh, there's nothing wrong there, and you're actually getting continuity across the fuse and the holder. Okay, right, let's give that another try. Hopefully it should come out this time. Unless I've missed yet another fix. No, there we go, that's lifting. That's lifting. can already tell someone's already been at this machine. Sometime probably in the very distant past. There we go. Well, these are a swine. There we go. Out you come. We've got a little grounding wire there. I'll just quickly desolder that so we can get in. There we go, that's free. And then we should, if I'm lucky, be able to lift the mechanism up, which is very heavy. We'll tip it down and we can have a look. Oh, there we go, we're in. In fact, let's see. Okay, apologies about that. A damn battery in my camera failed again. I will have to see if I can get some new batteries for that thing. Anyway, basically we've got it out. We've still got the speaker attached, which is preventing us from messing about with this too much. So we'll disconnect the speaker. And I can already see straight away, just by the way that the speaker's tacked on, this thing's already been apart, you know, at least once in its life, because they've just tacked the speakers back onto the terminals there rather than actually soldering them on properly. Well, I mean, that's not a problem. We'll get that out of the way. And basically, we've got the main mechanism here now. There isn't that much to it. These are horrifically heavy for what they are. Let me get this. Let me get this over, and we can have a proper look. I'm having to be careful because I don't want to crack that valve there. And we have. Let's see what we've got in here. Apart from some absolutely horrible capacitors, which I've always had problem. Well, they're always usually bad, which are these Huima brand capacitors. You can't actually see them, but they're down there. I've found them in a lot of like Grundig radios that I've worked on, and generally speaking, they're usually faulty. Right, let us see what our valve lineup is. Now, at first I thought that was actually the rectifier valve. It's not. This thing's got a solid state selenium rectifier there. It actually has two valves which would be considered output valves, but I think only one of them is actually used as the output valve in this. I think the other one is probably something to do with like recording or something like that. But what we've got, I pop this little retaining tag off. I thought this thing would use, like I said, this shows how long it is since I actually worked on one of these. I was pretty sure they use something like an ECL82 as their output valve. They don't. They actually use a 7-pin, which is a little sub-miniature tube, EL95 as the audio output valve. I mean, that's primarily what the EL95 is. It's a small audio output valve. Now I'm guessing that is the output transformer there, and that is the output valve for the audio there. Put that back on. But we also have over here another EL95. Now, if these are good, the EL95s, a used one like that with a decent amount of emission, they're worth about £5 each. So, to be honest, with them two valves, that's my tenner. That's what I paid for this thing. So I've got my money back if I can't do anything with the machine. Like I said, I'm probably edging towards breaking this thing for parts, because like I said, they're not one of my favourites, these, and there are more useful parts in it than there is as an actual machine. But yeah, we've got two EL95s in there. just get that back in there. Back in, and where's the retaining clip? There, oh, it's pinged off. Bit of a pain. At the other side of the spring, it's there. Just get that out of there because I don't want it to. I'm not too mad about putting it back on for now. Even when you break something up like this, it's things like this that are handy. You got little springs and things that you can. If you're missing one, they're really hard to get. There's loads of bits like that we can salvage off it. I'll just put them to one side for now. And valve retaining clips. These are great for putting in record players if they don't have them, because even though it's being used on it, you can use that on the larger valves. The pip hole in the middle is the same. You just need 2 springs. They're very, very handy for putting in record players that don't have them, especially if you've got to ship your record players through the post. You don't want your buyer or your customer getting it and it not work due to a valve that's worked out in the post. If it doesn't already have them, adding these will stop that. We'll put that to one side, and like I said, we'll just clip the valve back in like that. Let's see what else we've got valve wise in this. We should have an ECC83 or a 12AX7 in here, which is going to be one of these two. It looks like we've only got 4 valves. We've got 2 will be pentode output valves. Like I said, we should have something like a 12AX7 ECC83 in here, which I think might be this one here. Let's pop that out. Let's have a look what we've got. Oh, we've got an ECC81, which again it's a double triode. And sometimes you can actually use that as a substitute for an ECC83. It just doesn't have quite as high a gain in it on it. I've done that in the past actually. Pop that back in, and we'll see what the other valve is. Obviously, they are still a sought after valve. That's worth a minimum of 10 quid if it's okay. But what we might do, I don't know yet, what I might do is either in this video or in another video is we'll actually test these valves on my valve tester and see if they're actually any good and whether I really have got money's worth out of this. Let's pull that valve out. Let's have a see what we've got. And that is an EF86. So that is a decent. That's a Mullard EF86, which is an audio preamp valve. These are, if it's if it's good, if it's got a decent amount of gain on it, sorry, a decent amount of emission left in it. Those are quite sought after. And probably worth more than the machine in total if that's good. So even though they're not the valves that I was actually expecting, we've still got our money's worth in the valves that are actually in this. Let me just pop that off as well, because these are a bit of a pain, these spring holders. Let's get that out of the way and see if I can find that spring that's pinged off, because what we don't want if we try and power this thing back up is where those springs, you know, shorting across something and causing us some issues. We've got capacitors which cause an issue down there. Let's put them back in like that. Now there's our main smoothing can there, and actually it doesn't look in particularly bad condition. Oh no, sorry, that is our motor start capacitor, that one, because it's only got a small value. It's 1.2 UF, 500 volts, 220 volts AC, but you know, yeah, we're 240. This is a Continental machine. It would actually, and it doesn't have a voltage selector, I don't think. does it? Oh yes it does. But, and it is set to 240 volts. So we actually have a 240 volt tap on there, but the motor run capacitor is actually only rated at 220 volts AC. Well, it's got a 750 volt breakdown voltage on it, I think. We don't seem to have a main smoothing can on this, you know, with a multiple element can. We seem to have 3 separate smoothing capacitors there, which we know those are the main smoothing capacitors because they come straight off the selenium rectifier, which is there. We know that that's working, because if that wasn't working we wouldn't be getting any illumination on the EM84 Magic Eye tube. So we know we've got HT, we're just not getting any sign of audio on here, and it could very well be, you know, one of the capacitors. Well, apologies about that. My camera battery died. I didn't actually realise I've just spent half an hour talking to myself. So we better just recap what's actually happened. I will have to buy some new batteries for this camera. It's a decent camera, I'm quite pleased with it for what I paid for it, but the batteries that it came with are knackered. I will have to order a new battery for it. And unfortunately you've missed the bad news. I really don't think this thing's going to be repairable. What we've done, we started going through it, and what I have discovered is we've got a bad primary on the audio output transformer. Now, normally that wouldn't be too much of an issue. We could stick another transformer in it. This transformer is not quite like a standard audio output transformer. The primary is just a single primary. Unfortunately, the secondary on this seems to have multiple taps on it. So it's not as though I could just get a stock transformer and stick it in here and it'd work properly. I'm not saying that we couldn't actually get it to work in some fashion or other, but it'd never work right without the extra tappings on the secondary. So really, it's like I say, it's not going to be worth repairing this with the fact that that's bad. So it's really a case of, and I'm pretty sure I know why that failed. In fact, I'll get you in and I will show you. Let me get you zoomed down. So unfortunately, I've just spent half an hour diagnosing this, and I was going to show you, a decent diagnosis of fault finding, and I did, and the camera had gone off. It actually serves me right for not connecting my external monitor up and just relying on what I was doing. But what I think the issue has been, we've got, I didn't shock myself there, I just caught a nerve. We've got 2 capacitors there. One of those is the grid stopper for the output valve. Basically it stops DC getting onto the grid of the output valve. And I think these are Weimer brand capacitors. They're used in a lot of Grundig equipment. I've worked on many Grundig radios from this era, from the late 1950s. They all use these same type of Weimer capacitors, and generally speaking they're always leaky. They don't seem to hold up. They don't even hold up as well as our UK like Hunt's wax paper capacitors. They always tend to go bad. And what I think's happened in this is basically that capacitor has failed in the past, which has put a positive DC voltage onto the grid of the output valve, which will turn the output valve pretty much hard on, allow it to draw quite a lot of current, and basically has seen the demise of the audio output transformer. If this was a normal radio or anything, I'd find something to sub with that. We've got very little space in here, and like I said, it's got additional taps on the secondary as well as just the taps for the actual speaker. So I did say when I first got this it was either going to be get it working or see what we can take out of it for spares, and there's quite a lot on this which is going to make some really good parts. First off, I pulled that valve out as I was trying to get the output transformer out before, but we've got a decent amount of valves in this which are actually quite useful. They're not actually what I was first thinking was. It's a long time since I worked on one of these Grundig machines, but what we've got, we get this. It's got a screening can on it, but we have got that is a Mullard EF86. So we've got a nice EF86 there, which is basically an audio preamp valve. And we have an ECC81. Is that a 12AU7? I know it's not. A 12AX7 is an ECC83. I think that's a 12AU7, which is the ECC81. It's either the 81 or the 82, which is the U7. Again, it's a double triode preamplifier valve. Quite handy. A lot of like guitar amplifiers and things like that used those. It's not quite as high a gain as an ECC83 12AX7, but it's a very similar valve. I think actually it's pin compatible, and in some instances you can actually use this as a sub. So we've got those two. Now here's the interesting, we actually have in this two output valves, but it's not a stereo unit or anything. One was being used, I think, in the record section to drive the head. But what we've got, these are miniature 7-pin, but we've got EL95, so we've got a pair of EL95 output pentodes. These aren't the most rare or valuable of valve, but I like these little 7-pin output pentos, mainly because they're fairly cheap. I've got boxes of them, to be fair. Not 95s, I've got some EL 91s, 92s, which are a similar kind of thing. They're worth about a $5 each though. If it's in good condition, it's got a decent amount of output. Second hand, you know, they're about a $5 each. And I said we have one in the output section there, and we also have one here which is to do with the record output, and that is another EL95. And then obviously we also have the let's get it up round there. We'll see if we can pop this out. In fact, we'll have to just undo that little screw there to free this off. We also have our, that's a Mazda brand one, EM84, and that we know actually works. We had that lit up before, and it's actually a nice bright one. So I like these for messing about with like DIY amplifiers and things like that. Like I said, they're a nice little visual indication of what's going on. You know, you can basically use it as like a little VU meter and have it dancing along to the music. Not many radios use these as the tuning eye. A few did, especially radios made in like Eastern Europe. They sometimes used an EM84 as the tuning indicator, but like I said, just a fun thing to build into like a homebrew amplifier and stuff like that. So I've got a few of them, so they're always handy to have them. So we've got, bear in mind that I paid £10 for this tape recorder. We've got, that's worth a £5. Those are worth a £5 each. If these were British Mullard, they'd be worth a lot more. They actually do say on them foreign made, but we've got £10 there. Obviously this is, I will have to test these on the valve tester and just make sure they are in decent order and they've still got a decent amount of emission left on them. But all that being, that's £10 to £15 for the EF86 there. So we've got what, £10. That's a fiver there. So that's £10 there. So we've got 10, 20, 5, and like I said, 10 there. So like we've probably got about £30–35 worth of valves if I was to sell. I mean, I generally speaking don't really sell valves unless it's someone that I know, or someone particularly wants something. I'm not. I did used to sell valves online, but that was a long time ago. So we've got more than our money's worth out of this, just in those valves there. So it's not a dead loss, this, and this is sometimes something that you find when you're buying this old equipment. Well, apologies about that yet again. This time I run out of space on my memory card. I've just had to go and grab another memory card. Well, right, where was we? So basically, quick recap, this thing is not actually worth repairing, but we've got a good chunk of valves, providing we can test those on the valve tester and make sure they're okay. We've definitely got more than we paid for the machine just in those valves, and there are quite a lot of other parts we can salvage off this thing. We've got a decent speaker there, which we can take. We'll have to get rid of this horrible foam which is all breaking up, but we do have a nice speaker there which would probably go in a record player or something like that. The heads on this thing might actually be in decent condition, and obviously if you are restoring one of these things like replacement heads, the only place you can get them really is off a scrap machine. So things like the heads, in fact them heads look pretty manky, them heads actually look pretty terrible. Let me just scrape the, yeah, no, even the heads are shot on it. I have the feeling that this thing was kept somewhere very, very, very damp for a long time, because those heads are absolutely, they're all corroded. So even if we got the audio section of this thing working, it would have not played tapes very well, if at all, because the heads there, they're in an absolutely shocking state. Let me see. I don't know if I can get you zoomed in to have a quick look. Let me see if I can. But if we're looking there, them heads are not in a nice condition. I'll just try giving them a quick clean, see if they do come clean, but they look pretty grim. And the problem is, if the heads are bad, you can actually damage your tapes by running them past a really bad head. We'll get in there and see if it'll clean up. No, those heads are, they're actually rusty. That's not just oxide coming off there, that's rust. I have a feeling this machine was probably kept in like a damp shed or a damp garage or something like that for a very long time. Even springs like we've got down here have got quite a bit of rust on them. So it's not repairable, basically. It's not worth, I mean, I'm sure everything is repairable. Is it worth repairing, or is it worth more? Bear in mind, we can't buy new parts for any of these things anymore. Some valves are still made, but they're like the kind of valve that's used in like a guitar amplifier or proper audiophile audio amplifiers. There's still valve manufacturers out there. You ain't going to buy an EL95 from them. You're not going to be able to buy an EM84. Things like the ECC81 and the EF86, yes, you can buy brand new manufactured versions of those, but they are not as good as the original Mullards made in the 50s and 60s. Just the way the valves were made, the quality control was far, far superior. Any of these valves will be far better than really like the new production, which I can't remember where, I think most are made by a company called Valvo, and I think they're in like Hungary or one of them, one of the Eastern European countries, and they do still make valves. There's also, I think there's at least one company in China that still make valves, but they make things like EL84 output valves, EL34s, that type of valve, rectifiers, things that are used in, like I said, audio applications, guitar amplifiers, stuff like that. So it is literally a case now of what can be salvaged, from this machine. Sadly, the heads, like I said again, I can't even save the heads for if another one of these comes in that needs heads. The heads aren't really worth saving. Things like that valve holder there, that's quite a nice valve holder. That'd be saved, that'd be worth keeping. There's no signs of any heat damage on it, which these Paxilin valve holders do tend to suffer from, because that's really not had a very heavy, hard life where it's sat there. Generally speaking, tape recorders, unless they were used, you know, like in a school, in a church or something like that, if it was in the home, they usually didn't get a whole amount of use, so they are quite good for salvaging things like valves, like valve holders from, because generally, like I said, they've not had a mega amount of use over time. The mains transformer there, we know that's good, because the HT came up on this. We actually got the magic eye to light up. So we know that we've got a good mains transformer there, so that will definitely be worth keeping. And then it's literally just a case of the odd little bit and bat. Again, we've got some decent valve holders down there which we can salvage. I'm even tempted to actually salvage this 3-core mains cable. I know it's the old colour codes, but I've actually got something that could go on, period correct like. So basically that's it. Unfortunately, in this time we didn't actually get the thing to play, but on the other hand, we have actually got a quite a large number of very useful parts out of this. What I'll probably do actually for the time being is I will loosely put, just put it back in its cabinet. I won't put the valves back in it because I want to test them. I might actually just do a quick another video just showing me testing those valves that we pulled out of it. So I think that's what I'll do. I'm just gonna basically just pop this thing back together, and then we'll come back and we'll have a little bit of a conclusion. So back in a sec. Right, okay, and there we go. I've basically just got the machine loosely fixed back together. A lot of the fixings I've taken apart when I've taken the transformer and what have you, I've just put in a little bag, tied it up and put it inside. Like I said, this will get broken up for spare parts when I've got a little bit more time to actually do that. For now it can be marked up as spares, and it can go down in my storage cellar. The only thing I have left out of it obviously is all the valves, because these are useful. These will basically be tested and then go into my valve stock for reuse for other projects or other repairs. But even though the machine is not repairable, it's not worth really spending the time or the effort repairing the machine, especially considering some of the other things that are wrong with it. The heads are shot. I won't just bin this because there's so many useful parts on here that you can't get. You know, the catchers, you can get one of these with a broken catch on it. You've got replacement catchers. You've got a nice handle that could even, it doesn't necessarily have to go on one of these. If I get a record player in and it's got a broken handle, I've got a handle there that I could maybe ought to use on it. Perhaps that could even go on a portable radio because it's the same style of handle. You know, there's knobs like that, there's the capstans, there's so much on here, like I said, which will go to keeping other machines, not even just a Grundig, but you know, all other vintage machines. There's so much I can actually salvage off this thing. So even though in one ways it's a fail, we didn't get the machine to play again, in another way it's a massive win. We've got more than I paid for the machine in valves there. Like I said, providing that they do work. I can't actually see that Well, I'll do another video anyway. I'll dig the CT160 out, we'll set it up on the bench, and we'll go through and just see whether those valves are all good. If they are, it's a massive win. You know, we've got £30–35 worth of valves there for a machine that cost me a tenner. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now. Like I said, I'm a little bit disappointed that we didn't get this thing to play, but we know what's wrong with it. We found out why it had failed. And we've got some very useful parts out of it. So what I will say is thanks for watching that, and like I said, it might be in the next video, I don't know. I'm feeling about doing something perhaps vintage computery next. I've got that TRS-80 colour computer up there screaming at me, give me a service, give me a service. So we may even pull that back out and have a look over that and give that a service and get that into nice working order. And then I've got a plan. I've got a TRS-80 disc controller which I modified to work on my Dragon. And I've got an idea to modify that again so I can use it on both systems, so we could actually play some disc software on that computer. So like I said, might do something a little bit vintage computery for a while, and leave some of the valve stuff for a little bit. But like I said, I'll leave it there for now. Hope you enjoyed this little video. So I will say apologies for the chopping up of it that there's been. You know, so I've had a couple of battery failures on the camera, and then I ran out of room on my memory stick. But said thanks for watching, and goodbye.